So now what we have to do is once you have your job profiles, one part of the assignment is for position management where you have your positions. You can edit them and use your job profiles that you have created. Or if you don't have any positions, create them and then use these job profiles. In job management, we set the hiring restrictions at the supervisory org level. So in that, you can edit the hiring restrictions and use these job profiles. Okay, make sure you practice that. All right. So for today, we have the topic of compensation. Now the next piece is compensation. Compensation is in two parts: core compensation and advanced compensation. This course only covers core compensation, which covers your grades, packages, plans, and enhanced eligibility rules, everything related to that. If you are more interested in learning advanced compensation, which is related to your merit cycles, pay planning, and all that fun stuff, which requires a lot of reporting, a lot of calculated fields to be created. There's a dedicated course for that, but this course will definitely help you in that particular part. So let's get started. We'll only do a theory of it today. Any hands-on that we have, we'll start next week because 1 hour is not sufficient for this. You'll understand what a package is, compensation and job-related reports, eligibility. Now I'll request you to go back to your notes where you have the initial day notes where you have the core compensation topic. You will have these keywords already there. You will hear about, you already have these notes written down: eligibility rules, compensation grade, compensation plan and package. Everything is already listed there. Now, what's a package? A package is nothing. If you remember, I did tell you, anytime we talk about core compensation, the first idea of compensation is compensation package is equal to compensation grade plus compensation plans. That is what the first point is. And these are the primary things that we need in any compensation setup. Other than that, there are some compensation elements or components which are also part of it, like total base pay. These are few things that I'll just name it out, which we definitely use later. So the type of the plan, all these are different components which are also part of your compensation plan. Using compensation eligibility rules enable the system to default those components into an employee's compensation during staffing activities. Your compensation, this is the point which explain that compensation eligibility rules enable the system to default, and compensation eligibility rules are the main driver. You do your complete setup, you set it up in the system, grades, plans, packages, but nothing will happen if you have not set the right eligibility rules. So for example, if you have a software developer position open, one in Texas, one in San Francisco, right? If the eligibility rules are not set, and both of these locations vary a lot in the salary packages also. So your eligibility rule must define that if the employee is being hired in Texas, they'll be eligible for this compensation package. If the employee is hired in San Francisco, they'll be eligible for the other compensation package. So eligibility rules are the main drivers of this. And not only that, if there are any allowances, any benefits, any one-time payments that the employees are eligible based on the location, that will also be defined. The last point, when you create plan, you must also add it to the package. Plan and grades does not, though they are independent, but both of them are needed in the package to make it a complete thing. So your grades gives you the reference ranges. Your plans allows you to pick the values from those reference ranges. Basically the type of plan that you have, whether it's a salary plan, whether it's an hourly plan. All these are in your notes already. Now, how does this tie back to the three topics that we have done? Now, if you don't have your supervisory organization not defined with the right staffing model, you cannot create positions. If you don't create positions, you cannot hire people into it. If you cannot hire people into it, what's the point of compensation? And compensation activities are running throughout the year, even when you do some transfers. Definitely for a new hire, there is a step called as proposed compensation hire, which that is where a recruiter or the hiring manager enter the amount that the new hire will get. Once the employee is hired, then there are promotions, transfers, appraisal cycles, all that involves compensation, right? And this is the best visual to understand your complete compensation structure. In the center, you can see the compensation package, which is a mix of different plans, and in the bottom, grades. You can see there's many different plans: salary, merit, allowance, bonus, hourly, unit salary, commission, stock, period salary plans. Not all are applicable in every organization, depending upon how the organization, what industry they are in. They'll use the plans accordingly. And then you have the grades, which has step grades and grade profile steps. These are different things. Steps is something which used to be there. So what step grades are is, let's say, you usually applicable to hourly employees. Let's say you hire a recruiter, and after every quarter or every 6 months, their salary will increase by $2. So you can set up until when it will increase. So at a particular duration, once a recruiter completes 6 months, let's say the initial salary was defined as $18. Now it will be 20. In another 6 months, it will be 22. So on and so forth. It will continue to grow, and there will be a maximum limit also set. And over to the right, what you can see is compensation elements. These are in any type of configuration you do, whether you're creating a plan or you're creating a grade, you have to define an element. And this compensation element is tied to earning codes. Earning codes is the language which payroll understand. Payroll does not understand compensation elements. Earning codes is something which payroll understand, and this is where your company's payroll consultant and your compensation consultant sit together, create those earning codes. Earning codes are created by payroll consultant, payroll side, and compensation elements are created by compensation. Basically, you don't even have to create. There's a lot of work to deliver compensation elements which we can use. For example, if your company has an allowance plan or a car allowance plan, okay, when we create that salary plan, we use that car allowance plan because that will be used as a compensation element, and some way it will be tied to the payroll earning code. That is when the payroll runs your final paycheck or anything, like for your salary checks, you would see a separate line in your payslip, that car allowance X and Y amount. If you notice something for any part of the world, whether you're in Asia Pacific, in India, in US, in Australia, in Europe, anywhere, when you receive your paycheck, your payslip every month, you would see different components there: basic, HRA, benefits or bonus, special allowances, others, etc., etc. All those are nothing but earning codes, which are coming from your compensation elements. Now, when you see your payslip, you look at it in a different perspective. Now that you know this. So each and every different line, like if I talk about my payslip, since I'm employed in India, so I have a basic HRA, and then I have other allowances. I have our company has some, flexible benefits and all, so we can, buy some things outside. We can claim that. So if If and when that is applicable, that's a different line also. So each and also not only that, there are deductions also. Like what is my provident fund deduction? What is my other tax deductions? Those are also mentioned, but those are not part of compensation. Don't confuse everything in your payslip with compensation. Compensation is what you are receiving from the company, not the deductions. Okay. Some people get confused that your compensation is what your final amount that you're getting. No. The final amount that is entered in the system for your salary is just your basic. All these other elements like different allowances, commissions, and all those things come separately. So, for example, in appraisal cycle, you have your annual increase, you have your annual bonuses, so on and so forth. So that will come in a separate line in your payslip. Okay. Now going forward, after this session, look at your payslip, and you will understand it a little more. And over to the left now, you can see eligibility rules. These are the driving factors, the main driver of it. You can differentiate it based on job family, profile, management level, organization, country, location, or a combination of some or a combination of all. Ideally, in the grade profiles that you see in the bottom of the square section, grade profiles, we set them based on locations. We derive them based on which location the person is. Because right now you all created job profiles. Now, how are those tied here? You create one job profile of Workday analyst. Now, with the help of grade profiles, you can literally use that job profile anywhere. So these eligibility rules, usually we define them based on the location. So if you have a Workday analyst position, you can literally use that job profile in any region where your company is, using the help of with the help of grade profiles. You can create location is equal to Boston, define the reference range, use that same job profile. You can use location is equal to Germany, use that same profile. So job profiles tie very well with your compensation setup. And as complex as it looks here, it's much more easier when it comes to the configuration. But yeah, we'll take it slow in config because this is the first time you'll be doing a lot of hands-on. So we'll take that a little slower. Let's do a quick review. A compensation structure includes your grades, plans, which are grouped in packages. You already know that. Plans, which is nothing but your allowance plans, can be set up as percent, amount, and unit based, and can be configured to allow override at the time of your. Let me talk about the second example. Like I said, I have a car allowance. For example, I don't have it, but assuming that I have a car allowance. So my car allowance can be set up. If you see here, three values are here. One is percent, the other one is amount, and the third one is unit based. Okay. Percent will not be a very good option here. Percent will be like percentage of what? Is it percentage of your base salary? That is what I'm getting as a car allowance. I think that will be a lot. So in that case, this might not be applicable, but yeah, percentage of your base salary will be applicable if you're a sales employee. This is how much sales you made, and a percentage of that is what you will get as an allowance also, which is allowance is always on top of your salary. Okay. And don't get confused. Please don't get confused. Your in-hand amount, though we call it our salary, but technically that's not your salary. Your salary is everything cumulatively added up. That is your salary. But there are deductions that happens as part of, regulatory reasons, tax deductions, if you have benefits, those kind of deductions. Like in the US, you have a benefit deduction every month. In India, that's a little separate. Right? You can make that separate. So allowance is on top of your base, which will be part of your salary only. Now, car allowance, as I was giving an example, company can set up a set amount that, they can do it based on a management level. Let's say I'm at a director level or a VP level, then I'm eligible for $500 every quarter for my car allowance. Or let's say if I'm an individual contributor, then maybe $100 every 6 months. So we can set that up. Now I'm adding a little different eligibility rules here. First is based on the location. Let's say if I'm based out in US and my management level is vice president, a VP. So a combination of these two will make me eligible for a $500 plan on a quarterly basis, not a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis. I can change the frequency to 6 months, to an year, or to monthly also. Unit based, in this case, very, very limited use of this. You have to first define what that unit is, whether it's how much commission or not commission, how many deals sale you made. Depending on that, you can also set it up. So in my case, the second one makes more sense, the amount option. With this, you also have the ability to override. Okay. Now there's a checkbox. When we do the configuration, I'll focus on that also. Unit-based plans are those in which the prerequisite is your company has to define what is that unit. Okay. Let's say you are in the sales team. You usually applied on the sales team where the commission is where there's a component of commission. You can think of this as an extra commission, like how many clients you brought in a quarter. Based on that, one client is equal to one unit. So you have to define that unit. Based on that, you'll get the allowance. Now, override at the time of hire. At the plan level, there's a checkbox which says allow override. And how does that work is, sorry, there's a checkbox which says no override. If you keep it disabled, that means at the time of hire, let's say I'm being hired as a VP, at the time of hire, and they realize, my distance is a lot, and I'm using a German-made car, which anyway are high maintenance, they increase that to $1,000 just that one time. Or, maybe in consecutive, in the first year, I'm getting $1,000 every quarter as a car allowance because they have overridden the default value of 500. But if I enable that checkbox, then at the time of hire or any transaction that happens for my profile, that value is set. You won't see the edit option. That's the difference of that particular override thing. Let me remove this. And whatever we are talking today, we'll implement everything in the system. The third point, compensation eligibility rules can control the compensation components for which employees are eligible. Compensation eligibility rules. In your notes, right next to it, I think Jagdish mentioned this earlier, you should have it written A is equal to B. The last point, compensation can be populated during staffing activities using defaults from position or through eligibility rules. Now, so write down compensation defaulting. What is compensation defaulting? Now, I wish we could do a real-time example of this, but with the tenant limitations, that might not be a possibility. But how, if you can visualize this with me, whenever you hire someone in the company, right? Let's say you are the recruiter or you are the hiring manager. You have a requirement to hire a Workday analyst. Okay. Now you don't know what the market rate is. You don't know based on the location, there will be a change in the salary variables, right? And you're also not familiar that, what kind of allowances are eligible based on the profile or based on the locations, right? Being a hiring manager, you just let the recruiter know, I need a Workday analyst. I need these and these skills. You gave them a high level requirement. Recruitment team starts working on it. Now, recruitment team is also on the same page as the hiring manager. They don't know what the market rate is. Now, in the backend, you already have your job profile. Okay, there are two ways that compensation defaulting works. You have your job profile, and in that job profile, you have a compensation grade already associated with. As and when, as a recruiter, you start creating the job requisition and you use that job profile. Now, when you use it, and there will be a step of compensation, proposed compensation higher, the recruiter will automatically get to see the reference ranges. Like this was the minimum, this is the maximum. Why they are able to see it? Because of the concept of compensation defaulting. Because based on the job profile that you picked, which was associated with the compensation grade, the recruiter is able to select a value from that. That's one way of compensation defaulting. The other way, let's say you decide not to associate the grades with the job profile. The other way is based on the eligibility rules, your compensation eligibility rules. Let's say you're hiring that employee in Texas. So based on the grade profile in Texas we have set up for Workday analyst, the recruiter will see that range. That's another way of compensation default. Okay, so I'll take one of you as an example. Okay, now there is an opening for a Workday analyst in an organization. Right? You saw that opening and you applied for it. Right? But before that, what happened? How did that opening came into place? Some manager must have connected with the recruiting team that I need a Workday analyst. They gave them some specific details that, I need these and these skill set, etc., etc. Right? Now, we cannot expect the manager to know what the market rate is for a Workday analyst based on which location they want. Let's say they want to hire for New York. Now, a recruiter starts working on it, and we cannot expect the recruiter to reach out to compensation team every single time to ask what the market rate is. So now when the recruiter starts the job requisition process, they start creating the job requisition, they'll select the job profile of Workday analyst. Now, if you already have your compensation grade set up with the job profile associated or linked to the job profile, you will see those reference ranges, like the recruiter will see those reference ranges and they'll select a value. They'll discuss it with the manager. This is the range. What is the value that you like to propose? That's one way of compensation defaulting. Your compensation is defaulting. Just break down the words. Defaulting. Your compensation is defaulting into the process itself because we have done the setup in the backend. That is with job profile. That's why it's saying activities using defaults on position. The other one is through compensation eligibility rules. Let's say the Workday analyst job profile is not associated with the compensation grade. So the system will look for other eligibility rules, like what location you are being hired for, what management level you have. Based on that, they'll default the compensation values. That's another way of compensation defaulting. Basically, if I conclude it in one line, compensation defaulting is a concept which allows you to see what is the reference ranges an employee is eligible for. There are new profiles that gets added into the system every other month, every other quarter, sometimes every other day, and market changes. So you have to change the values also. There are two ways. See, either you have your compensation team upskill in Workday that they do it themselves, or they'll rely on you. In my case, I've every time seen that compensation team do their own thing, and we as Workday consultant has to do that job, which in a way is very good because you as HCM consultant should know what the compensation structure looks like. It's very much expected from an HCM consultant to have at least a basic understanding of compensation because compensation has touch points everywhere in the system. But to add any information that goes into the system, you will receive that information. It's not your part of the job, not your responsibility to find that. Okay. Some compensation eligibility rules report, but we usually don't run much reports of these. These are heavily used in advanced compensation. So we'll use the compensation grade, we'll use the job catalog report. Yeah, that's the most of them that we'll use. Now, compensation overview, first point, second bullet point, you already know. The third one, provides guidance reference to pay range. In your notes, you have that written in front of your compensation grade. If not, please write it down. Those are your reference pay ranges. The next is grade profiles allow for localization. You already have localization written down somewhere. Okay, write that down next to your compensation grade profiles. Localization is nothing but, in simple ways, wherever you go, compensation changes accordingly. You're a new hire in California. As a Workday analyst, your salary is 90K. You move to Texas, it gets down to 75K. You move to New York, it gets down to 120K. So based on your locale, things vary, things change. That is how it works. Localization is as simple as that. Compensation grades, we already discussed it. This is that point which I was talking about in the last example on how you can default the compensation either using a job profile or using the eligibility rules. Now, job profile is not a very favored option. The reason is you get stuck with that particular job profile. That's why we prefer doing it more on the compensation eligibility rules, because you can use a combination of things like based on your management level, based on your location, based on the country also. But in case of the other one, that's not, it's only restricted to job profile. That's why it's written, if you go to the third point, if you require more than one criteria, then compensation eligibility rules are a better option. Let's see what plans are. You have salary plans, hourly plans, and these are certain check boxes which we have to go through. And compensation plan setup is much more easier than compensation grade. If you do your compensation grade and grade profile setup in 30 minutes, it will take you 3 minutes to create a salary plan or an hourly plan. And both of them are important because one gives you the reference range, the other allows you to pick a value from that reference range. Now we'll look into that once we start the demo. I also talked about this. Your allowance plans allows you for 3 types: amount, percent, and unit, which we already discussed. Eligibility rules, we already discussed it.